At the height of the pandemic, the famous Cirque du Soleil closed all 44 of its shows and let go 95% of its staff. More than a year later, director and producer Dawn Porter brings the story of magic back to life, showcasing how these performers made their comeback in the new documentary Cirque du Soleil Without a Net. Let's take a look.
We have rescue divers during the entire show. If you were to watch underwater, it's a completely different show because they're moving equipment. They're helping to move performers from one side of the stage to the other. They are catching performers that come into the water. Their job is just as difficult and dangerous as ours.
Really so fascinating just to watch this. Dawn Porter joins us now in studio. Thank you so much for being here.
I love being here. Thanks for having me.
So what made you decide, you know what, I want to take a look at this comeback of Cirque du Soleil?
You know, well, first, Cirque allowed us to come in, which was extraordinary. And if you're a filmmaker, your first question is always, what access do I have? And they agreed to let us literally embed with them as they tried to come back. They had 8 weeks to get to mount that show. And this is the O show, which is cast over a pool. It is the most ambitious, most difficult show for them. It's really their flagship show. So the opportunity to be with them as they tried to make this comeback was kind of irresistible. But the other thing is, this was during lockdown that they invited us. This is before vaccines. And so the opportunity for me to come out of my lockdown and watch their efforts, I felt like the Cirque performers were doing what we all wanted to do.
Talk to us, because 8 weeks to do something like this seems like just a blink of an eye, especially because they had been off for more than 400 days.
They had been off for a year and a half, and so if you think about it, they left work just like many of us left and never went back. There were dirty towels in the laundry. The equipment hadn't been tested. This is a show over water. And to not have tested this gigantic pool, there's a lot of danger involved, and there was a lot technically that they had to overcome. The most difficult thing was they weren't used to being together. And a Cirque show is all about timing. If you can't catch that performer that's flipping you through the air, it's really dangerous.
And you talk about the catching just now, that metaphor, but in particular, you focus on one of the participants, Amber, who was getting a divorce from her husband, who was her catcher. So you also tell these kind of side stories. How did you end up getting into that layer? Because I think that people are going to see it expecting, oh, this is just about, you know, the group getting the band back together, so to speak.
You know, the thing that I'm most interested in as a documentarian is the human story. Who are these people who are doing these extraordinary feats on stage? And so what I was interested in is not just who the performers were on stage, but what are they like at home? What were they dealing with? And to know that someone's going through something that so many people have gone through, but she's able to show up for work. She's able to do literally death-defying acts while she's having this huge emotional crisis. And it made me respect the performers even more.
While we see them on the screen doing these death-defying feats, they also had so many hurdles behind the scenes, right? Because in some cases, many of them who were from overseas, they didn't have a visa anymore. Once they weren't working, they had to go back home.
Cirque laid off 95% of its staff. They basically let everyone go. So at the time of the lockdown, they went from having hundreds of shows to having 0. No income, no employees, no infrastructure. And so it was just a really small core that had to keep this going. That extended to the performers. If you're here on a performance visa, you work for that employer. You can't transfer and go work for someone else. So the only option they had was to try and hope that Cirque would come back. So the stakes for those people are incredibly high.
You got such access, really, to kind of peer behind the curtain of nothing of what we would ever see as an audience member. What surprised you the most? What were you most taken by?
The thing that I think we really wanted to show and to emphasize is everything in Cirque in the O show is handmade. The costumes are hand sewn. The performers, it's all their bodies. It's all of their athleticism. One thing that was so surprising is how many of them are elite Olympic athletes. And they might be performing for just a few minutes, but their job in the show is to make it look easy and seamless.
Which is just so impressive, even beyond what they already do. What do you hope that viewers will take away from this?
It was so inspiring to be in their beautiful world. The O Show, which is in Las Vegas, it's an enormous show. It's an enormous undertaking, but there are no words. There's no dialogue in that show, and so I think that there really is a magic to how they're able to come together and how they're able to create a world of connection.
And what a testimony to their perseverance as well. Dawn Porter, we thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
No, thank you. It's so great to be here.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.